I just wanna get effed up and dance. This is our only chance. Happiness is fleeting. This feeling's way too good to last. Get effed up and dance. No future.
Welcome to Hollywood. I'm your host, Holly Solem. I have a Substack called Hollywood, W-O-U-L-D, because, I would, where I write about my life in this crazy town, my experiences with dating, ghosts, drugs, partying, celebrities, sobriety, death, synchronicities, and more. And here on this podcast, we talk to my friends and acquaintances about their true Hollywood stories. So, hop aboard the Star Line. We're going to go for a ride down memory lane with today's guest, Tim Nordwind. You probably know him from the band OK Go, famous for their music, but also their viral videos, such as the treadmill one, Zero Gravity, and, well, if you don't know, just give him a Google. More recently, Tim has been performing as his comedy alter ego, Ron Persky, holding hilarious songwriting workshops regularly at the Elysian Theater right here in Los Angeles. And he even just returned from performing the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, all the way in Scotland. But I know him as my best friend. So, without further ado, Tim Nordwind.
Hi, Holly.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm all right.
All right. Good to see you.
How are you? How is it being back?
It's good. Yeah, I was just in Edinburgh, and I'm just getting back on schedule again.
How's your jet lag?
My jet lag's all right. I was going to bed really late, which was bedtime here in LA. So I didn't have much problem getting back on schedule. But it's more just like being back in Los Angeles. Because they don't have cobblestone roads here, but they do in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
I know. I don't even know how you're like relearning how to walk.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I had to learn a different way of walking.
There's cobblestone legs. There's sea legs.
Exactly.
There's pavement legs.
There's sand legs.
Sand legs.
Yeah, for those who walk on the beach.
You need to get your pavement legs back, probably.
Yeah, I need my pavement legs.
Yeah.
And my driving legs.
Oh, right. Your driving legs.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's weird.
So let's just get right into it.
Okay. All right.
So do you remember how we met?
Yeah, I do. We met in Chicago a long time.
Do you know what year?
1999, maybe? Maybe 2000?
I think so.
Something like that. And I was dating a girl named Megan who had a twin sister named Jessie.
Yeah.
And they were sweet people then. They're sweet people now.
They have not turned evil.
No, they've always been great. And I remember waking up one morning at Megan's house and walking into the kitchen, and you were there. You were just in their kitchen. And I had heard that you were living in the house. It was kind of a big house, like long, sort of like a Chicago-style long house.
Yeah.
And I had heard that there was someone living on the other end of the house in like an area that you weren't supposed to really live in necessarily, but they had put a curtain over this like area that was just a little nook with a window. And finally I saw you in the kitchen and you were like, "Hi." And I was like, "Hey." And you were like, "I'm Holly." And I was like, "Oh, right. And you were like, "What are you up to?" And I think it was right around New Year's Eve, because I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to figure out how to make crab legs, actually." Because Megan and I were going to make crab legs for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Cool, that's so cute."
Really? Did I really say that?
Yeah.
You actually remember that?
Yeah, I remember you being like, "Oh, that's cute."
Oh.
And I was like, "It is cute." And we actually did find crab legs, and we did have them for New Year's Eve. And I figured out how to make them in this like lobster pot. And
well, I don't think that's when we met.
You don't think that's when we met?
No, it's not. I met you before that, before I lived there, when I was really little. I was like 15.
Really?
And I met you before an OK Go show at the Empty Bottle.
Right. You've told me this before.
But you don't remember. But I was probably just like
I don't.
This random little kid.
Right.
So you were probably like, whatever.
Right. And you were probably...
And then you were forced to meet me in the kitchen that morning and really take notice. But to me, you were like this big rock star.
Where were we?
In Chicago, like some restaurant next to the Empty Bottle.
Okay.
And then I went with our mutual friend.
Okay.
Who I won't say her name.
Okay.
She and I don't talk anymore.
Okay.
But
Okay.
That's another story.
So we met then. Was I nice?
Yeah. You were totally nice.
Okay.
But it was super brief.
Was it
And then
fast?
I remember because I saw your band play and I was like starstruck. Like you guys were really good.
Right. You saw our band play that night?
Yeah.
And you were 15?
Yeah.
That was illegal.
I had a fake ID.
That wasn't legal.
I know.
Okay.
Everything about me was illegal.
Okay.
My
okay.
very existence
Okay. Okay.
was illegal.
Right. Right.
So to clarify,
Yeah.
Tim and I he didn't know that I was an illegal child coming into his show.
No. And then so maybe you were when I met you at Megan's as well?
I was still very much illegal.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
all I know
You don't have
is-
anything to worry about. It's all the other guys. Yeah. And then we weren't
Okay.
like friends in Chicago. And I was only there for 1 year.
Right. I mean, I remember seeing you at the house on and off every once in a while.
We were
And-
friendly.
Yeah, we were friendly. And I feel as though Megan and I had played some sort of parental role in your life.
Yes. I do feel like
Even
you
though
kind of
I-
watched
I-
out for me.
Yeah, like I'm not sure we totally knew just to what extent. Like, you know, like I don't think we were like totally aware of your age at the time, but I do kind of remember just thinking like this person needs some guardian angels.
Yeah. I did. I really did. I needed some guidance. So it was crazy because we knew each other then and we met and then we lost touch,
Yeah.
not for any like real reason, just because I was like a child and then I moved back to Minneapolis and
Yeah.
whatever. And you were doing your thing with your band.
Yeah.
And then weirdly, we both ended up in Los Angeles around the same time.
I remember about 2 years into living in Los Angeles, I was in and out of town a lot because I was touring with OK Go. I was also writing a play that was being produced in Chicago.
That's right.
So I was like going back and forth to Chicago a bit. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was on tour with the band. And so my first 2 years in Los Angeles, I didn't really hang out in Los Angeles. But I remember about 2 years in getting a phone call from you. And you were like, what are you doing? Let's hang out. And I had never really been out in Los Angeles before. And you were like, I'm going to the Roosevelt Hotel. And I didn't really know what that was at the time.
So wait, did we meet there? Did I pick you up? Do you remember?
Yeah, I
this
do remember.
happened?
I drove my Ford Focus.
uh-huh.
I drove my Ford Focus
Oh, I remember
to
that car.
the Roosevelt Hotel. And you said, I'll meet you there. I'm going to be with some friends.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I do remember that. And I remember, I got out of my car. I waited in front of the Roosevelt Hotel. And I guess for those who may not know what the Roosevelt is, I don't know. How would you describe the Roosevelt, especially at that time?
It's like classic Hollywood.
Yes.
And at the time it was like very hot. Like celebrities partied there. There was
Right.
like the pool and the cabanas, and then there was Teddy's, which was also in the Roosevelt.
Teddy's was like LA's Studio 54 in the like early to mid aughts, I guess. We could have been going to like a Best Western or a date. Like you said it was like some hotel. I was like, cool, I'll meet you at that hotel. Like I had no idea. And I remember looking at the Roosevelt Hotel and it looked very like classic old Hollywood and very beautiful. I think it had recently completely been redone.
Yeah.
And
And it was like there were like door people and you had to like know somebody to get in. or you had to be somebody. So it was a whole thing to like get in. You had to have an
And I remember you showed up with sort of a gaggle of people,
in.
like a whole like posse.
Yeah.
And like, and it was like you and I would say a bunch of other like very modelly looking people.
Okay.
And I was like still feeling very Chicago. Shout out to Chicago. I love Chicago. But I was feeling very sort of like this wasn't my world at all,
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember seeing you and you just sort of like a tornado almost kind of just like swept me into your crew and brought me into what was it called? What was the name of the pool? There was a name for it, but I can't quite remember it now. Anyways, there's a pool area at the Roosevelt, and it felt very glam.
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking in and just like, we like completely passed the door people, like completely past a line of people.
Yeah.
And just like walked in and all the way to the back, and there was a cabana in the back. Right?
Yes. And there were like bottles, there was bottle service and a cabana, and everything was like all set up, and people just brought you things.
Yeah. And I was just kind of like, I was very quiet because I was just taking it all in. And I was like, I just really hadn't seen this side of Los Angeles before.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were in a cabana with like a small amount of people, and like everyone looked great. And I remember you were like, I'll be right back. And you were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I don't know where you went.
I probably went to go do drugs.
that might very
That's
well
probably
be.
what I was up to.
But I also didn't know that. Like,
No.
I didn't know any of this. And this is like the first time I wouldn't say it's the first time, but it's the first time like where maybe we had met up and it wasn't just like a dinner or something like that. This is like my first time out.
It was a night out.
On the town.
Yeah.
This is my first time out in the town in LA, but definitely my first time out in the town in LA with you. So I when you said you'll be right back, I was like, oh, maybe she's like got to check a fax or something. I don't know. It was the early 2000s.
We're still faxes, I think.
Yeah. And so I remember I was just kind of like standing there alone. And then this really nice guy came up and introduced himself to me. And he, out of everyone in the entire room, looked the most kind of plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
He's like in jeans and a sweatshirt, like a hoodie sweatshirt. And he introduced himself to me, and I introduced myself to him. And he was super nice. And he was like, what brings you here tonight? And I was like, oh, my friend Holly brought me here. And he knew you. And I was like, oh, you know Holly. Cool. And yeah, and I kind of think maybe I didn't see you for maybe another hour or something like that. But he
So sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine because this guy
he took care of you.
Yeah, this guy was like super nice. He's like, we're gonna go like sit out by like the area where there's like outdoor fire.
Yeah.
Fire pit. There's like a fire pit.
Outdoor fire.
What's the thing where there's fire and a pit?
Outdoor fire.
Yes, there was like a fire pit. And so I went and sat outside with this guy for probably like an hour and a half. And he's the only person I talked to. And I was the only person he talked to.
Wow.
Right? And like
little meet cute.
Yeah. And so I was like starting to like relax and feel like I belonged in this place, and like I've got my friend.
Do you know what you were talking about?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm getting there.
So it's funny. So I think at that point, I had just come back from recording OK Go's second record, which was in Sweden, Malmö, Sweden, which is the southernmost point of Sweden, right? And so he's sort of like, Tim, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a musician. He's like, oh, cool. I play music too. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he was like, where do you record? And I was like, oh, well, I was just in Sweden recording our record. And he was like, that's crazy. I do all my recording in Sweden too with these songwriters there. And I was like, oh, cool. And then he was like, who mixed your record? And I said, oh, well, this guy, Torio Hansen in Sweden, who produced the record, mixed it. And I was like, and the record before this, we went with this guy, Tom Lord Alge. And he was like, no way. He's like, his brother, Chris Lord Alge, mixed my record. And so like there's all this stuff in common. And I'm kind of like, all right, I'm not going to ask him what band this guy's in, or like, I don't know. Or like,
Yeah. So you really just didn't know. You were
I didn't know at all. And I didn't feel like being name droppy in that way or whatever, you know? And so like, and gosh, I'm trying. So we're talking and I was like, so do you live in Los Angeles? And he's like, oh, no, I live in Miami he said with my, I think, girlfriend, partner. And I was like, what does your girlfriend do? And he's like, oh, she plays tennis. I was like, wow, that's cool. That's cool. And he was like, what does your girlfriend do? And I was like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend. and so anyways, so this conversation, there's more. We're talking about more.
Yeah.
Right. I still don't think I've seen you yet. But it's like an hour and a half or 2 hours in. And everyone's thinking about making like a company move somewhere else.
Yeah, you got to go to the next hot
spot.
spot.
It's like time to go to the next spot. So people start rallying to leave. And he turns to me, he's like, hey, are you coming to the next spot? And I was like, I'm sure, you know, I'll do whatever. And so I think finally you showed up and you said hi, you know, to both of us.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, should we, you know, make a move to the cars and stuff like that? So we're like, sure. So we walk like past the pool, and then we get into the parking lot, and all of a sudden, all these flash bulbs go off, and he gets pulled by somebody. I don't even know who. Somebody pulls him and throws him in a car, and the car goes off. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? You know? And I turned to you and I was like, who was that? And you were like, who do you think it was? And I was like, I don't know. He said his name was Enrique. And you were like, yeah. And I was like, I still didn't know. Because like, and you were like, that's Enrique Iglesias. And I was like,
he was like so famous at that point.
Yeah.
He's like everywhere.
I didn't know. I didn't know. I, of course, knew his name and I was familiar with his biggest songs. Right? To be honest with you, I think just because of the kind of music I was into and the kind of things that I was into at the time, I maybe had never seen what he looked like.
Yeah, that I can see that.
You know?
It also wasn't like the music video era so much. You're not like watching MTV or something.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things that I think, for better or for worse, that people would mention around his name is that he had like a mole on his face or something. But he didn't have a mole on his face.
Really?
No.
Really?
I think it had been removed at this point.
Whoa.
So if I
didn't even know that there was like a missing mole in this story.
Did you know there was a mole in the first place?
I do remember the mole.
I just
but
remember
why would you get rid of the mole if that's like your thing?
I don't know, because I don't know what the mole actually looked like. I'd only heard that he had.
You're
so I don't know.
Research this mole situation.
Yeah, and if I'm wrong about that, then I'm sorry to your listeners.
I met him because of this manager guy that I hung out with. Like, he didn't want to manage me as a musician, but he wanted me to be part of his like model crew.
Okay.
So
like a crew that he hung out with?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he had he was this big, giant, huge man, like huge. And he had the heart of a pig.
Like literally?
Literally.
Okay. That's not like, you're not being poetic.
No.
Okay.
He literally had the heart of a pig.
Okay. That's okay. Just, if you need it, then you need it.
Anyway, he was a really big guy.
Okay.
He maybe dated the person that we won't name.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm crying. And he just was like out every night, 7 nights a week,
right?
At all the hot spots. And somehow I kind of got wrapped up in his posse, and there was just a lot of like partying and drugs and whatever, like whatever you wanted was available.
Okay.
And he was always with like celebrities and models, and somehow I got wrapped up in his crew. And, you know, I would never have to pay for anything. I would like go to Mexico with this guy and like 10 other girls and like go on yachts with him and a bunch of other girls. I never had to like do anything, but I did have to be like flirtatious and nice and sweet and fun to be around. I think
that was
I probably wouldn't have been able to like keep hanging if I was my true evil self. I had to like be sweet.
And so, and did this guy manage Enrique?
So he didn't manage Enrique, but yeah, somehow I met Enrique through that like world.
Right.
Just out. And I met a lot of weird celebrities during that time, like all the Lindsay Lohans and the people that were in all the magazines.
Right.
Because we were all together at all the same parties.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And
so I didn't know.
And Enrique was always just like really nice, like never creepy, never weird.
Yeah.
At all.
I second that emotion. He's such a sweet guy. And I mean, you know, I feel like I'm here today, one, to talk to you, my best friend, but also
Tim has like 10 best friends. Just FYI to all the other best friends out there. I see you.
Okay, so there's that. But like I feel like I'm also here a little bit to win my friend back.
Okay, exactly.
Or to find my friend.
We are here
I don't feel like I need to win him back, but I need to
find him.
I need to find him.
We got to move on to what happened next with your relationship with Enrique.
Well, okay, just to finish out that night. We ended up going to a new location. And when I got there, he like, as soon as I walked in, he like so kindly was like, Tim, like waved me over. Which is just made me I just felt so included.
Aww.
You know? And I went over there and he was like, hey, listen, I'm going to probably take off in a minute, but I've really enjoyed talking to you and let's exchange numbers. And he was like, and I'd really like to hear your new record. And I'm staying at the Four Seasons Hotel under a fake name. So here's the name. So he gave me his number and I felt like Cinderella or something like that. Like I went home that night. I lived in like this little place in West Hollywood with my best friend since I was like 2 years old, my friend David. And he was a waiter at the time. So he was up late.
Yeah.
Know? So I probably got in at like 2, 3 in the morning and he was already up. And I like walked in and was like, you'll never guess who I met. And he was like, who? And I was like, Enrique Iglesias, and he was like, tell me everything and we just like stayed up the whole night. And I was like, he was so nice. And he gave me his number. And so anyways, he was like, well, you have to bring him your record, and he was like, you got to do that tomorrow. And I was like, totally. And so anyway, so I burned him a copy of the record, which wasn't out yet.
Oh my God, you burned it on a CD.
I burned it on a
so
CD
cute.
and I put his number in my Sidekick telephone. Cellular telephone.
Yep.
And we had just accidentally made a rehearsal tape of a dance routine of us dancing in the backyard of our singers. We had just made a video of us dancing in our singer's backyard, which was not on the internet or anything like that. We had made it like a couple days ago and thought it was really funny. And so I burned that for him too.
Whoa.
And I went to the Four Seasons. I texted him. I said, hey, are you around? He was like, I'm not. I'm in the studio, but drop everything off at the Four Seasons. So I took everything and I drove it over to the Four Seasons and I put it under his, fake name. And like maybe 3 or 4 days later, he texted back and was like, bro, I listened to your new record. It's amazing. And that dance is incredible. And like maybe like 4 or 5 months later, that dance went pretty viral online.
Yes.
So
that was the first viral moment.
That was our first viral moment. And it predates the treadmill video.
Right. That's right. I remember the dance was first.
Yeah. And so it was like one of these things where like Entertainment Weekly picked it up and like we did it on the Today Show and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
What I mean? And it's what gave us the idea to then like we sort of did that on accident. So it's sort of what gave us the idea to try one on purpose. And that became the treadmill video, which came out maybe a year and some change later.
And Enrique was one of the first people to see it.
Enrique was probably the first person outside of the band to
God.
have seen it. Yeah. And he really liked it.
And
He
then
really
you were
liked
like, well, it must be good if Enrique likes it.
Yeah. And from there on out, it's like our record came out. I remember the day our record came out, we played on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno in the afternoon. And then we drove down to San Diego to play a club called the Casbah.
Mm-hmm.
And we played to about 20 people at the Casbah that night.
I've played that club to 20 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was one of these things where it was our second record. And we sort of thought like, yeah, we'll sell this place out. 20 people showed up.
Brutal.
And I remember I was like kind of bummed out after the show. And I went into the little green room that they had there to go get my jacket. And I like checked my sidekick. And there's a text from Enrique that's like, bro, saw you on Jay Leno. Congratulations on the release of the record. So cool. You know, it's just so nice. And from time to time, I'd like run into him in Los Angeles, you know, like we have a mutual friend who at the time had a jewelry line. And she had a party at a club called Hyde.
Yeah.
And I think it was a collaboration with Playboy, actually.
Yeah,
So Hugh
Brookie.
Hefner was there.
Shout out Brookie D.
Brookie D. Yeah. And I remember, I think she asked me to DJ it, actually. So I had just finished DJing. And I came down, I was walking through the thing, and I hear, Tim? And I look over, and sitting next to Hugh Hefner is Enrique. And I was like, oh my God. And he was like, bro, it's so good to see you. And then he said, have you lost weight? And I was like, I have lost weight. Thank you for noticing.
Oh my God, this is the cutest thing I've ever heard.
And he introduced me to Hugh Hefner. And like, it was just like, and he just couldn't have been nicer.
Oh my gosh.
But here's what happened.
Okay. Yeah, we need to cut too.
Yeah, here's what happened. So I was like, I had a Sidekick cell phone, which I and like a million other probably teenage girls.
I was just going to say you
Yeah.
and all the teenage girls.
Yes. We all had one of these things. And it was like a phone that was kind of like rectangular and you'd flip the screen up
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like pull it out,
Right.
which really attracted me at the time. And it had tactile
Did
buttons.
you have like bejeweled? Did you get it bejeweled?
I
and
didn't have it
like-
bejeweled. I didn't have it bejeweled, you
All
know.
right.
But not that there's anything wrong with a bejeweled Sidekick, but I didn't do that.
Okay.
I think I had some stickers on it though.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that's the phone that Enrique's number was stored in, and this was right when the first generation of iPhone came out.
Yeah.
And so everyone was getting an iPhone. So I eventually got an iPhone. So when I switched my Sidekick over to my iPhone, I lost all my numbers. I didn't realize that would happen. And I had to change my number.
Right.
Yeah. So I had like a Chicago 773 number, but I had to switch to a Los Angeles number.
Yes.
And so whatever I had done, I wiped out all the information in the Sidekick and then had nobody's number in my iPhone. And I was like,
And you had a new number. You had
"Yay!"
and a new number, so no one could even.
So
this
no,
is-
yeah,
Like, how did you even survive?
I don't know, because I like to imagine that he was just texting me all the time.
He
you know?
probably was, and just thinking like, "Oh my God, Tim doesn't love me anymore."
Yeah, and I'm afraid he may have given up on me at some point.
Wait, so you never have spoken to him again
I haven't.
since
No,
you switched to the
I'd
iPhone?
say
In what
probably-
year?
2005.
No, it wasn't 2005.
I think it might have been
Because
2000.
this was 2006, I think, when you met him.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. You're probably right. So
Yeah.
maybe like somewhere between 2006 and 2007.
Okay.
I think.
So, Enrique, if you're out there, just write into the show and I will reintroduce you to Tim. This is heartbreaking.
Which one's my camera?
Yeah,
That one.
yeah.
Hi, Enrique. It's Tim Nordwind. I just want to say thank you for being so kind to me when I first moved to Los Angeles. I thought you were so great, and I still think you are so great, and I still want to be friends. So please, find me. Please.
I'm going to cry. This is so sweet. What if we actually reunited you?
It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome.
Because this is probably the first time you're speaking about this publicly.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Maybe some magic will happen. This is Hollywood, after all.
This is Hollywood. This is
Wow.
where people come to
their dreams come true.
right, get their dreams come true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just so moved by this story. Actually, I know the story, but hearing you tell it again,
Yeah.
the full thing is like,
Well, you know what? I would say in Los Angeles, LA is a bit of it's a little different from other cities. There's a lot of isolation here. People aren't always so quick to say hello and introduce themselves to you,
yeah.
and just be friendly. And
that's
so
true.
this is like one of the few cases where someone actually did do that. And
Yeah.
it was Enrique.
I was going to say, like, it's interesting that you have yet to find Enrique, considering you might be God.
Oh. So you say.
I mean, I
So you
wonder if this whole you being God thing only works for me.
Well,
Like, you are my God.
you're the only person that's ever told me this.
Really?
Yeah.
So I have a weird thing where, like, I'll tell Tim something and then, or like, I'll say, like, I really want this to happen, and then it will happen.
Right.
And it's very specifically with you.
Yeah. And it's not like I'm, of course, wishing all these things for you. But
But maybe you are pulling some kind of strings.
I think if I was that, I wouldn't be able to tell you anyway.
So just for example, one time I was talking to Tim, we were texting, and I was like, I really want a big fat orange cat, but I only want a cat if it's toilet trained and doesn't use a litter box, because litter boxes are gross. And we were laughing about it, and he was like, you should get a cat, ha ha ha. And it's dumb, whatever. During the pandemic, we're just texting. And then I walked out of my bedroom into the living room, and a big fat orange cat walked into my house. I'm not even kidding. And I took a picture and sent it to you. And then my roommate at the time was like, oh, I guess my cat came back. It was her cat who'd been missing for like a year. And then she said, don't worry though. He doesn't use a litter box. He's toilet trained.
You don't know the calls I had to make.
I was like, Tim, what have you done? But it wasn't like, it's not the first time that's happened. So
Yeah. I don't. I mean, look, it may just be the fact that you're putting it out there into the world.
maybe. But now anytime I want something, I make a very real point of telling you.
Yeah, and I make a very real point of listening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You do. You are a wonderful friend. And I really
I
hope
got you.
Enrique reaches out to find you, because
you.
I really would feel like if I could reunite you, then I would be sort of pulling the same strings that you've pulled for me.
Yes.
So thank you, because you've really made my life much better.
Well, right back at you, kid.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for being the maiden voyage of the Hollywood show. Tim, where can our listeners find you?
Oh, right. Well, Instagram, I'm at Timothy Nordwind. And then if people want to follow Ron Persky, they can go to Instagram as well, which is at Ron_Persky.
At Ron_Persky. This is Hollywood. This is my show. You can follow me on Instagram at Holly M. Solem, TikTok at Holly M. Solem, Twitter, Threads, all of the things. X, whatever the hell it's called. Oh, yeah. All of it's Holly M. Solem. And then the Substack is Hollywood, HOLLYWOULD.substack.com.
I just wanna get effed up and dance. This is our